Hey guys, it's Steph. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see from the title of this video, it's going to be a Q&A. I am, like I just said, Stephanie, if you're new here. I've been living in Ireland for just over 3 years. I moved here with my husband and 2 daughters. My husband was born in Ireland and lived most of his life in Ireland. We did spend about 10-ish years together in the United States. We met there, got married, had our daughters, and as the years went by, we wanted to move for various different reasons. We decided that we wanted to move to Ireland, and we eventually did. I want to really quick start by saying that I'm really grateful and appreciative that I even have the opportunity to move my family elsewhere because of frustrations of where I was. It's a very big blessing and a very fortunate opportunity that a majority of people really don't have easily accessible to themselves. So I'm really grateful that we even have the opportunity to have moved our family here. We are a unique scenario, just that myself and Gary, my husband, us two as partners are just from 2 different countries, and all of his family's here and all of my family's there, and that, our daughters are dual citizens. So our scenario is unique in that way. I guess I also touch on that because sometimes people are seeking out my channel interested in leaving the US as well, but obviously everyone's situation is different, and I wish that I could have all the information, and I do aim to be as helpful as I can, but I don't always have advice for everybody because if you don't have a spouse or a family connection, I'm not really sure what to suggest as far as how that goes. And then I also just want to say that the past several years of my life, I think I've done a lot of learning, growing, unlearning, deconditioning, healing, just trying to become a mindful, self-aware, better version of myself, and remaining positive and with gratitude at the center of my mind, or where I'm at or who I am, as much as I can. But that's a lifelong commitment. So, I'm not perfect. I'm just answer questions to the best of my ability and based off of my lived experience. But I definitely always try to be mindful. This is actually the second time that I've recorded this video because I know Q&A videos or non-vlog style videos that I'm kind of just answering questions about, like, do I like living in Ireland, or certain questions get more views. So I get a little nervous, and I just want to present myself true to myself, most importantly, but as best as I can. It's hard talking to the camera on the internet when some of my videos get thousands of views, actually, which thank you for watching, but I just wanted to make that little disclaimer. But without further ado, I will get to the first question. Now that you've lived here 3 years, are you going to start the process to become a dual citizen and get an Irish passport? I would love to do that. I hadn't put too much thought into it, but the little bit of thought I had, I thought it was 5 years, but that's not really, I don't really know where that guess came from. I don't know if at one point in time somebody said they thought it was about 5 years. I don't know where that's coming from. If it is 3 years, it is about time that I could look into doing it. My daughters are dual citizens, but I don't know how it's different for me being the spouse. But if I can be a dual citizen and I don't have to give up my American citizenship, my American passport, I think I don't have much more thought to put into it. I just need to look into the process. I think I'll do it. If I do have to give up my US citizenship, I need to look into that further, whether I do or not. Then I would obviously put more thought into things, and I don't have an answer for that because I had assumed more likely than the other way that I could have both, but I know it depends on each country has their own rules or ways of doing things or whatever it may be for them. I was talking to somebody, I was working in the airport, which I haven't said that I left my airport job, but I'll talk about that in another video. Somebody I work with was from another country, and the country they're from, they would have to give up that citizenship to be an Irish one, so they hadn't done so. But yeah, I hope that answered that question well enough. The next question, what I would love to see you talk about is your experience with finding a job there as an American, what kinds of requirements and processes were needed, maybe differences you have noticed working in Ireland. So I have been here just over 3 years, and I was actually just working in retail in the airport for the past 7 months. Our girls, although they were getting older, were still on the younger side, so I was kind of staying home with them. The first couple years here, they had 2 different pickup times, and long story short, coordinating childcare or after school care just seemed to be too expensive or too tough to where it kind of hardly made it worth it for me to work in certain ways, just being that I am at more so of an entry level job point. And as we know, sometimes they don't make the most money, which is fine, but sometimes it just felt like it didn't make sense. So I will say that I was just going into an entry level job. I wasn't leaving a career that I had came from in the States, because dependent upon what career or what you had been doing in the United States, it could obviously vary with what field of work you were going into. For example, my husband is in upper management, general management for restaurants, and he was able to get something that works for us and suits us in a salary that works. It's not like super high, and it is tough and it is challenging, but we are able to support ourselves on just his salary for the most part. Not necessarily easily, but we make it work. But that being said, there's still less opportunity in his field compared to like where he could be at in the United States, and further growth upward from where he's at now. And I think he did manage to get good jobs, because I think he's really, really valuable at what he does. And I know I'm his wife. You could think, well, you have to say that, but I actually really mean, I think he's like super good at what he does, and he has a lot of experience. So he was able to get something, but that doesn't mean that there still wasn't less opportunity available for him. And then I try not to go on too much longer because I feel like I'm getting sidetracked. We were at a wedding a couple years ago here in Dublin of some of our good friends. And one of my husband's friends, who's Irish, who's been living in the States, married to an American woman, and they've been living there for years and have a kid. They both said that their industries that they're in would prevent them from wanting to move back to Ireland, because it wouldn't be the same, probably mostly financially, and the opportunities and positions would just be different, and it would be a big roadblock for them thinking about moving back to Ireland. And then as far as what I need legally, I have a permanent residence card. I'm on a stamp 4, and that's because I'm the spouse of an Irish citizen. That was all simple and straightforward enough. Sometimes the processes of things in Ireland can take a little bit longer, but looking at it overall, there was nothing too strenuous that goes into the task of getting your permanent residence card. And then I also got my PPS number. PPSN, which is like your social security number. And then there was this other card that was simple enough to get as well. I just had an appointment and showed them a few documents in my permanent residence card, probably my passport. I didn't feel like it was difficult at all to be able to legally work here as far as that goes. And then finding a job for me, because I was just going into something entry level and I didn't have too many things on my checklist to check off, I didn't find it too difficult to find a job once I did decide to get back into the workforce. But yeah, again, that's based off of my lived experience. There's definitely different variables that could come into play per each different person and what they're looking for and what their lifestyle is like. Next question. Oh, no. This was just something I included on my little document I put together when I was feeling silly. I wanted to briefly answer. Now that the US has nominated the current president-elect that will be coming into office in January, we are ready to flee the country due to what they are going to enforce on queer kids/adults. Not a friendly place anymore. I'm ready to go. Is it out of reach? I just wanted to empathize with their concerns, because I feel heavily the same way with those concerns. And as far as, is it out of our reach? I do feel like that's kind of a hard answer to simplify, because again, everyone's lives can be so different. But I did just want to say, I don't think it's as out of reach as people think. I don't think it's as crazy of a thing to do as people think. It is a really big thing, and it comes with its challenges, and it is a really important decision to not make lightly. But I think if anything, I would want to be a person to encourage you to at least look into it more, and not to write off the decision or the thought of it because it just seems like too crazy or too out there or too different or too big of an option to make. Next question. What is the Irish sentiment towards foreigners leaving for these reasons? I'm assuming that was on a video where I was talking about reasons that I left the US, and they're wondering, how do Irish people react to that? I don't know if I've said this before, but I know I've certainly wanted to. Working in the airport, for example, I met a lot of new people, and oftentimes, even well before I started working, just if somebody says, oh, where are you from? I can hear your accent, and I say, the United States. I am 9 times out of Ken met with like kind of surprise and almost like shock. Like, why would you move to Ireland from the United States? Which I totally get where they're coming from. I'm not necessarily, actually, maybe I was a little surprised sometimes to have that reaction, but at the same time, I can understand, especially with young people, because I think it's quite hard for young people over here. Just with the cost of living crisis, with finding places to live, other various things. Not that it can't be that way in the United States either. To get back to answering the question, I then explained my concerns about living in the United States. My biggest one, and the biggest example I lead with, because it is probably the most concerning aspect for myself as a parent, was the weapons violence and the threat of weapons in schools, and the fact that my daughter was 5 years old in kindergarten and already practicing hiding under her desk, locking the doors, pulling down the blinds, doing active weapons drills. I just kind of being careful with what I say on YouTube, because sometimes they want you to be mindful about the words that you use. So once I say that, they are, again, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, people are entirely empathetic with that reasoning. And they're like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, wow, that is crazy. We see things on the news or in headlines, but because it is kind of such a crazy reality, you know, people obviously not living there mightn't realize just how scary or disheartening or frustrating that it can be. And then other topics, like one of the previous questions I just answered about certain rights being up on the chopping block constantly for certain groups of people. People empathize with those frustrations as well. I feel like I can't see an Irish politician using somebody's marriage rights just as a part of their political agenda to get people to support them. The retraction. I can't see them threatening to go backwards just to gain like a political following, but I'm not that knowledgeable on Irish politics either, so I'll leave it at that. Well, this isn't necessarily a question, but I will kind of just maybe give my 2 cents. This person said, one of my big fears is raising our children so far from family. The closest family we have in Europe would be in Germany, but I think I would regret setting them to miss out on family events like birthdays, holidays, and gatherings. That's obviously incredibly valid. I do miss those things with my family in the States. I think I didn't necessarily have a lot of close immediate family, and then my extended family I would really just see once or maybe twice a year. And although I love and miss those occasions, I guess, well, what's unique for me is that I have my husband's family here as well. So that's another thing that it's just dependent upon your situation. It's really nice to be around his family. I guess also then again, in general, living in the States and living here, life just gets so busy that we don't see people sometimes as much as we should as it is. That's not a good thing. Of course, a goal in life would be to get better about making plans and reaching out, making the effort and really setting aside time for getting together with people. Like I said, that's a super valid concern, and that's just something that's going to be on the table when you're looking at what you're willing to put up with or what trade-offs you're willing to make in an attempt to eliminate some of the other frustrations. That is a tough one. Is there a common culture of friend adoption in Ireland, in that once your friendship gets to a certain level, the lines blur a bit between friends and family? Yeah, I'd say so. I get together with her somewhat frequently. Again, life gets really busy and sometimes it can be a couple months since we got together. And I had several friends coming over here because my husband had a really great friend group and has always maintained a level of closeness with them. So even when we'd visit, I felt like, they became my friends too. People came over to the United States from Ireland to come to our wedding. I met other friends from the girls' school or at work. But yeah, my best friend, who is a parent of my daughter's best friends, we met on their first day of school. And it was really like a meet cute kind of a situation, the way that we met. But anyways, I was just with her at her house last week and we just talked for 5 hours while the kids played, and we could just never ending talk. And like, I would consider her family-like, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Supportive, dependable. I don't know, somebody I just feel 1000% being completely myself around. Another example is when we lived in my husband's parents' house when we first came over. We really made a pretty good friendship with their neighbors who were our neighbors at the time. And the husband was from the United States and the wife was from Ireland. And just for example, they did like a Friendsgiving, Thanksgiving, technically our second Thanksgiving here because we did move over in about September. So we didn't know them super well at that point, but they just invited us. And I felt like people do a good job at making you feel welcome. And Irish people are like easygoing, laid back, friendly, conversational, inquisitive about you and your life, and overall easy to get along with. So I think that definitely friendships can turn into family-like scenarios. And then I grouped these two questions together because they're kind of similar. Was your visa through the joint family visa? I'm curious if you could share what the visa process was like for you being married to an Irish citizen. I did kind of touch on this, but yeah, I have a permanent residence card that's a stamp 4. I think stamp 4 is specific to either just spouses of Irish citizens or maybe other things within that realm, other similar natured relationships. But I can put a website in the description that at least gives you more information. Full transparency, I'm not the best at adulting matters. I'm not shy to say that. This is a complicated world and I want to do things the way that I'm supposed to, but sometimes things are complicated. I'll try to make it brief. We did things really abruptly and really interestingly. I don't know that I'd recommend that. With the way we moved over, we were like super abrupt, and I actually didn't initially enter Ireland the way I was supposed to. I had to go to the offices of immigration and then they gave me a little instruction, but I needed to, which I did then do, enter the country as this, like declaring that I was like the spouse of an Irish citizen, and then they stamp your passport in a different method than if you were to just be coming over here on vacation like I had done at other times. And I needed to have a few documents on myself, like my marriage certificate, and I don't think there was much else. But again, I'll try to link some information down below. So they stamped and wrote a little bit into my passport, and then I had another appointment at the Office of Immigration with obviously my passport, probably those documents again. It was nothing strenuous to get together, I'll say that. And I did that, and I applied for my permanent residence card, and I got that. I've been renewing that once a year, except the last time that I just renewed that around August or September. Mine will now last me for 3 years. I'll wrap that up by saying my experience was a hell of a lot easier than it was when it was swapped around, and my husband, when we were living in the United States, and my husband was the Irish one trying to get his green card in the United States. There was more money, more time, more appointments, more complications, and it's a lot more simpler, straightforward, and less time consuming for me being the American in Ireland now. The last thing I had jotted down in my little notes for things to answer was, can you make a video like this from your perspective currently? And I don't have the context to where that was from, but I still kind of want to give an answer because I think I'm assuming that that question meant, are you happy with the decision that you moved to Ireland from the United States? And that is just a complex answer. Sometimes every day is different, sometimes each week's different, or each month. There's definitely ups and downs. I think the overall general consensus is that yes, I am, but there are some days I wish I didn't. And there are a lot of times, and actually I would probably still say this now, even today, when I'm feeling more so in the positive realm, that if it weren't for the kids, my husband and I wouldn't live in Ireland. But that being said, the kids were the main reason, and they are very happy. And, when it comes to that aspect, everything has worked out the way that we wanted it to. They transitioned super well. They've made a lot of friends. They're very comfortable here. They love it. They would never want to move away. And of course, parents' happiness and mental health and well-being is very important. But at the same time, oftentimes, in a lot of ways, we do put our kids first, and that's what we've done. And there is a lot that I appreciate about living in Ireland. I know when I answer that question that way, people are probably thinking like, well, why? And I don't want to maybe get too into it in this video, like the pros and the cons. One thing that's wearing on me is the weather. It's winter time, and we don't get good winters in Michigan, but we get great summers. We get good spring times even, less cloudy, less gloomy, but Ireland is still gorgeous even on gloomy days. So I guess I'll also just say, I just feel like, I mean, Ireland is an island. You know, it's not connected to mainland Europe. Should I say a smallish country? I don't know if that, yeah, it's a small, definitely a smaller country than the United States for sure. It's like half the size of just Michigan. So my point is, I feel like sometimes they're behind. I'm just saying that overall and generalizing. And sometimes I even miss certain conveniences, like, I don't know, more options for things, bigger roads, bigger parking lots, more areas to park, not needing to go into the village and not be able to find parking when I'm going to the dentist, which it all sounds so silly and trivial when you mention one-off little things like that. And I know that to be the case, that it's not the most important things in life, but you know, it definitely lacks in convenience in contrast to the States. And I think the thing about that is that can 100% be a good thing. And I definitely need to remain positive and embrace certain things. But I think because our lifestyle, as far as like living to work still, my husband's job being so demanding and consuming, living paycheck to paycheck, yeah, like living to work, living to just keep a roof over our head is still the case here. So sometimes when you have more conveniences, it kind of offsets that, which is, we could really get into all that. I hope I'm making sense as I'm talking about this one, but I really lost my train of thought there. But there are definitely things that I appreciate about being in Ireland, and I'm happy that we made this decision. And I also just want to quickly say, I think it has contributed, doing a move like this and stepping outside of your comfort zone in general can really shift your perspective or contribute to the growth of the person that you are, the person that I am. And that's another thing that I'm really grateful for, having done this move. And like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm really super grateful that we even have the choice to do this. I'm really grateful that we're here. I'm grateful for all the things that have worked in our favor. I've vented on my channel before about, for example, even the frustrations with buying a house. But then I look back and I'm like, damn, we actually, even though we might have encountered some frustrations, things went actually pretty good for us in contrast to what you might hear from other people. We're doing awfully well, and we are blessed, and we're rich, and all the things that money can't buy. We are very blessed, and I'm really thankful, and I'm thankful to each and every one of you for listening to me ramble on and always being so supportive and so kind. And with all that being said, I'm gonna wrap up this video here. I'm gonna go try to edit it and hope that I like the way it turned out. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you think you might want to stick around and see more content from me, please subscribe to my channel. I hope everyone's doing well. Thank you for being here, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye.